Hey, what is going on, everybody? How are you all doing today? I hope you all are having a wonderful and fantastic day today, and if not, hopefully you all will have a better tomorrow. So, it's finally here. The response to Funimation's TCPA motion to dismiss. This is huge. And there's a lot in here that Ty Beard really put in. And it really does argue against the points that Funimation, Jamie Marquis, Monica Rial, and Ron Toye have. And, oh boy, it really makes the points that Funimation and their group have just feel like it's completely irrelevant. It just makes everything that they've been trying to say just look like it's nothing. It's pretty crazy. These were excellent points that Ty Beard brought up. But there's one thing that's very vital in this, and this is probably the most important part of this response, and that is Chuck Huber. Now, if you don't know who he is, Chuck Huber is the voice actor for Android 17 in Dragon Ball Z. So, many of you may know who he is, and he has been pretty neutral for this. But he finally came out, and the documents he had and the things he had to say in them, they were huge. And if you thought the skeletons that were coming out of Funimation's closet were bad enough, no, this makes it a lot worse for Funimation. And you know Sony is paying attention to this. You know Toei is paying attention to this. I mean, this is big. This is huge stuff. And if Toei was not upset before, which of course they were, then yes, they have got to be furious by now with the information that has been coming out. And Chuck Huber has a lot that he had to say, and with what he said here, really proves some very sinister and evil things really did go down from what his statements were. I mean, it showed you how vile some of these people actually were at Funimation. And it's crazy. I mean, if you thought some of the things you heard before were really bad, and which, yeah, they definitely were, whew, man, this just adds to that fire. So let's take a look at some of the things that Chuck Huber had to say from Part 7 onward. I have been a voice actor for Okratron 5000, a company owned by Chris Abbott, since 2004, and have been an employee of Deep Space Mustache, a film company founded by Chris Abbott during 2012 through 2013. I have been friends with plaintiff Vic Mignogna, Vic, for at least 10 years. I have been friends with the defendants, Jamie Marquis and Monica Rial, for at least 10 years. I know Ron Toye from his relationship with Monica Rial. The first time I heard Vic's name was in a conversation in 2003 or 2004 with Chris Abbott. This occurred while I was recording for a Funimation property at Okratron 5000. In that conversation, Chris Abbott verbally disparaged Vic's Christian faith and speculated that Vic was into guys based on the way he dressed. One big thing out of that statement is the fact that they have to bring up his Christian faith. Apparently, for some reason, they seem to have an issue with his religion, and this document also goes on to state that they had issues with his politics, which way he leans, because Vic is a conservative individual. So there's that. There was also jokes at one point about Vic's Christianity, stating that he could actually take their room and use it as a Sunday morning service. So they try to throw shade at Vic in that department as well, which isn't right. I mean, everybody's entitled to what they believe in, but apparently they have issues with his Christian faith. And later on, we'll get to the point to where they talk about his political views as well, because they have an issue with his political affiliation. But we'll get around to that when it's brought up in this document. But continuing forward. In that conversation, Chris Abbott stated that Vic was an offender who liked little girls despite these statements. He did not express concerns about risk to fans, which I thought was odd. During this conversation, there was no specific mention of Vic committing offensive actions, inappropriate behavior with teenage fans, or that Vic posed a risk to fans at conventions. In approximately 2007, Vic began the practice of autographing artwork depicting anime characters for money at anime conventions. Well, I mean, if you think about it, that's what voice actors do. I mean, how many times could you say that Chris Abbott's done this at conventions? How many times could you say that Monica Rial's done this at conventions? They've done this, and yet they're trying to say that Vic's bad for doing that. They've done it themselves. It's no different. Makes them hypocrites. It's no different. So, moving on. Other voice actors, Jamie Marquis, Monica Rial, and Chris Abbott, and other Funimation employees intentionally described that practice as stealing from fans, using fans, or being an asshole. We all later adopted these same practices and currently follow the practices at conventions. Exactly. So, if they want to sit over here and say that, oh, Vic's the bad guy because he's stealing from fans by just autographing pictures of anime characters, which there's nothing wrong with that, and he makes money off it, and yet then all those voice actors do the same thing. That makes them hypocrites because they're doing the same thing. I mean, come on. That's hypocritical on their behalf because they're trying to say Vic's the bad guy when they do the exact same thing. You gotta be kidding me. I mean, come on. That just shows jealousy, if anything. So, let's move on to the next part. This behavior by voice actors, including Jamie Marquis, Monica Rial, and Chris Abbott, and other Funimation employees towards Vic's successful business tactics demonstrates long-standing negative opinions about Vic. Yep, and that would come down to jealousy, because they didn't think of it. Since they didn't think of it, but he did, yeah, jealousy. So the next part. In virtually all conversations I had with these voice actors when Vic was not present, disparaging remarks were made about Vic. Typical statements included, he's a prima donna, he's a douche, he's a diva, and insulting his clothes, plus of his purported infidelity, dislike of his conservative Christian beliefs, and personal attacks for his support of Orange Man. All of these comments were made at one time or another by Monica Rial, Jamie Marquis, Chris Abbott, and others. All of them, however, conceded his ability to do his job. There you go. See, as I stated, they were going to insult his beliefs and his political views. They have an issue because, oh no, he's a conservative Christian, oh no! Yeah, thing about that is, people have their own beliefs and they're entitled to them. He has a right to believe what he wants to believe in, and if you don't believe in it, that doesn't make him wrong. That's just him having a different opinion. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just a bunch of high school drama, and it makes Chris Abbott, Monica Rial, and Jamie Marquis just look really, really petty and jealous. That's all it sounds like. I mean, it's pathetic. So moving forward. In December 2013, at Yamacon, I had lunch with Sean Schimmel and Sonny Strait. Now, Sonny Strait, he is the voice of Krillin, by the way. Sean Schimmel, aka the voice of Goku, tried to persuade me to participate in a derogatory video about Vic. The video was to portray Vic as a bad person. I refused because Vic is my friend, and he is not a bad person. Most of the time when I interacted with Sean Schimmel, he attacked Vic for pushing his Christian faith on fans at conventions. And here's the thing about that. So, there's a rumor that has been going around about Sean Schimmel having a father that was supposedly a pretty hardcore Christian. And Sean Schimmel didn't like that. And so when he met Vic, of course, well, he knew Vic was a Christian, and apparently he didn't like Vic from that moment. Even though Vic tried to solve the problem and tried to make things right, yeah, Sean Schimmel wasn't about that. Sean Schimmel seems to be pretty awful with how he acts when it comes to that, which is kind of stupid in my opinion. I don't see any reason to bash somebody over their religion, as I stated. Everyone has their own opinions and beliefs, and they are entitled to their opinions and beliefs. It's what makes us people. It's what makes us different. It makes us individuals. Just saying. In 2016, I was at Funimation and witnessed a producer at Funimation warn other Funimation employees of Vic's arrival and address Vic negatively with directors at Funimation. That's awful. That's just terrible. And they should all be ashamed of thinking that that was the right thing to do. That's not right. That's just terrible. Shows you how evil that is. That's a horrible thing to do. Moving forward. In approximately 2016 through 2017, a director employed at Funimation told me that Vic would never get a directing job at Funimation because he was such a douche. This conversation happened at Funimation. I advised Vic of this conversation. Vic later told me he addressed this issue with Justin Cook, a member of Funimation management. Yeah, see, that's a terrible reason not to make somebody a director. Just want to throw that out there. Moving forward. In my opinion, The voice actors and Funimation employees described above were overly preoccupied with disparaging Vic. Over the last decade, I was around Vic, the defendants, and other Funimation employees hundreds of times until January 2019. None of them directly accused him of assault or any form of bad behavior in my presence. Until January 2019, negative discussions about Vic Mignogna in my presence were accompanied by laughter and derision, but never included concern for any alleged victims or named specific victims. Vic has always been a joke to a certain clique of influential Funimation employees for decades, but never a threat. And it just sounds like school. It sounds like when you're growing up in high school, obviously there are those cliques in high school. And what this sounds like is there was a popular group and Vic just didn't fit into it. And so they just decided to make fun of him and put him down. I mean, that's really stupid. That's just not right. And it's extremely immature behavior. I mean, it just seems like they're all just a bunch of high schoolers from what this is saying. I mean, it just sounds like these voice actors, Jamie Marquis, Chris Abbott, Monica Rial, and whoever else was involved with trying to make fun of Vic and put him down and stuff. It just sounds like they're a bunch of high schoolers. Just saying. And they should be ashamed of their behavior. So moving forward, Vic indicated to me that in 20 years of working at Funimation, he had never been warned of any complaints about his behavior. Isn't that interesting? Despite the fact that they say that Vic did all these terrible things and yet he was never warned of his behavior, wouldn't you think if he was stepping out of line that they would say something as a business? That's very strange. Vic told me he had a meeting with a producer at Funimation in approximately 2018, specifically to discuss any issues with his behavior. He stated that there was no mention in this meeting of his committed issues or having behaved in an inappropriate manner at Funimation or at any conventions. He stated that she told him that he was difficult to work with because he sometimes asked directors to do additional takes when the director was satisfied with his initial take. Well, the thing about that is just because a director may think something sounds good to them, he may have felt that he could have performed better. I think a lot of us could say that we've done things that we didn't like the initial take that we did on something, whether it be at work, whether it be whatever we're doing. I mean, I know for a fact that when I've drawn things, that I've done some things that I felt could have been better, and then I just redraw it and do it again. But, that's just me, and I can understand where Vic's coming from here, because I think we all can say that we felt like we could have done better with work or hobbies or whatever it may have been. I think we've all been there. So moving forward. Senior Funimation directors have described the work environment at Funimation to me as a den of poison, Kafka nightmare, and Orwellian slave factory. Wow. I wonder how that sounds familiar. Richard Teeth. Oh, I'm sorry. I felt like something came over me there. And oh man, I don't know what that could have been. Well, anyways, moving forward. My experience working at Funimation wasn't pleasant. It was well known that if one falls out of favor with certain people, including Chris Abbott, or if one tries to do anything to change the working conditions, that person will not be rehired as a voice actor. I felt threatened with not being used as a voice actor in subsequent projects if I complained about the work environment. Well, that doesn't sound very good. But point 38 is a really big one, so let's take a look at that. In the 20 years I worked at Funimation, it was very common for employees, voice actors, writers, producers, directors to hug and kiss each other at the Funimation offices. Raunchy comedy was extremely common. Some relationships between Funimation employees and voice actors was common. No one was ever disciplined or terminated for this conduct. Huh. You don't say. Wow, that's really strange, considering the whole issue with Vic then. Huh. Well, doesn't that make Funimation just sound like a bunch of hypocrites even more than we thought beforehand? Wow, that's just not making you look good now, is it? Point 39 states, when Sony acquired a majority interest in Funimation in late 2017, a no-hugs policy was announced. Funimation employees and voice actors largely ignored this policy at first. Okay. I see. I see. See how it is. I see how it is. The voice actors, including Jamie Marquis and Monica Rial and other Funimation employees, talked and flirted freely at Funimation on a regular basis. Though this did become less common after Sony instituted the no hugs policy. Oh, well, that's interesting. That's interesting. So it's like when Sony had to get the belt out and say, hey, you can't be doing this. This is bad stuff. First, you ignored a little bit, but when Sony instituted that rule, things started to change. I see. When the Dragon Ball Kai was being recorded in 2007, I heard rumors that actresses had been recast at Funimation for refusing advances by Funimation employees. I consider these rumors credible based on my experience working at Funimation and from direct messages received from a former DBZ cast member. Now, what Chuck says here is very interesting because here's the thing. Stephanie Nadali, she was the original Kid Goku from the English dub of Dragon Ball. She also was young Gohan in the English dub of Dragon Ball Z. And it seems that there's a weird thing as to why she was recast and Colleen Clickenbeard was the one who took over. Very strange. So let's move on to this quick little statement here. I also heard that actresses who participated in events with Funimation / Okatron 5000 employees were cast in roles. I consider these rumors credible based on my experience working at Funimation. So, first off, there is the whole recasting. And it seems that if anybody didn't fall in line with Sabbath's little entourage, and if they didn't do what they were asked of, they didn't feel comfortable with it, then they'd be recast. Of course, they could throw the claim out there of, oh, well, it's 20 years later, they can't just reprise their role because they're too old now. Their voice isn't the same as it was. They could make that excuse, but it seems that there's a much darker reason. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? So, point 43. When the trailer for the Dragon Ball Z Super Broly movie was released, Vic did not voice the character of Broly, even though Vic was the only English actor who ever voiced Broly up to that point. And there's a little rumor going around that, I can't confirm this, but this is a rumor, that Vic was actually up for a director position. And that they didn't want that to happen, so they tried to find ways to get rid of him even before the Broly movie. Now, that's a rumor, of course. I can't confirm that, but that's what's going around. Now, moving on to some things about Abbott here. This is what Chuck had to say. During this time frame, I sent a text message to Chris Abbott, who responded that if this has anything to do with Vic, I will not talk about it. Chris Abbott is the owner of Okratron 5000 and is a voice actor at Funimation. We do know that. And here's a big one, though, I want to take a look at. Okay. The voice actors employed by Funimation generally consider Chris Abbott to be a de facto manager at Funimation, and they believe his approval and support is vitally beneficial to succeeding at Funimation, and the conventions and the converse regarding his disapproval. That's interesting, isn't it? But let's look at point 49. This is big. Chris Abbott has more influence at Funimation and other studios, including Rooster Teeth, wonder how that sounds familiar, and Toei, than Vic has ever had in the anime industry. Well, thinking about Rooster Teeth and how they were the first ones to fire Vic. That's interesting, isn't it? Interesting. I heard Chris Abbott and Sean Schimmel call Vic a offender numerous times before the allegations against Vic in January and February 2019 arose. As he stated multiple times before, he said that they had called him that. I have observed Chris Abbott on multiple occasions talk in a derogatory manner about members of Funimation management and other people he calls friends. See, now that goes back to how Chris Abbott would talk about people behind their backs. And he's done that. And to their faces, he acts like he's the best friend. He's a backstabber. And that's what that is basically saying right there. I was aware of no rumors or accusations that Vic committed any of these terrible things until the accusations arose in January and February of 2019 on the internet. So he had never heard of these things until that happened. Now, that's very interesting that he never heard of any of these things. Doesn't that go against the story that Monica and her entourage of clowns is trying to say? Huh. That's odd, isn't it? You would think this would have been brought up much, much sooner then if it had happened. Well, isn't that something? I was aware of no rumors or statements that identified any purported victims of offenses by Vic until January and February 2019 on the internet. Jamie Markey and I have been close friends and writing partners since 2009. She never mentioned the hair pulling incident at Funimation that she alleges occurred between Vic and her. Well, from what Chuck's saying here, it sounds like we got some dirty little liars. Yeah, it sounds like we have some dirty little liars on our hands, don't we? You would think that this stuff would have been brought up way beforehand. But apparently not. Now, isn't that strange? I wonder why that is, unless it's just not true. That this was just concocted and all of it just was made up. Makes you wonder. Number 60. I believe Jamie Markey would have mentioned the hair pulling incident if it had bothered her, since she is typically very outspoken. Oh yeah, she's outspoken, alright. Twitter definitely proves that for sure. In addition, while Jamie Markey, Monica Rial, and other Funimation employees often express animosity towards Vic, they never claimed he had done any of these offensive things to anyone. Their animosity was primarily due to his personality, who he was and his beliefs, and claims that he was difficult to work with. Here comes the Christian faith stuff again. They have to bring that up because apparently they don't like that. I think from what this sounds like, it sounds like it's jealousy. As I stated before, I think they are jealous because this is what it sounds like. It sounds like a bunch of high school teenagers being jealous of somebody. That's what it sounds like to me. In 2009, Jamie Markey and I worked with Chris Abbott on con.com.com, which was a website where voice actors could provide content for fans. Vic was a digital guest on that website, and our primary marketing force because of his prolific convention schedule. In dozens of specific conversations about Vic, there was never any concern about these offensive actions or behavior. Now let's take a look at point 63. Although voice actors and other Funimation employees called Vic a bad person and accused him of liking girls for years, they never said these things to Vic and never expressed any concern about working with Vic or doing panels at conventions with Vic until 2019, nor did they express concern for the convention fans until 2019. That's really odd now, isn't it? You would think if all these things were going on, wouldn't they have brought this up sooner? Why all of a sudden would it just come up in 2019? Why wouldn't it have happened beforehand? Very strange. Because if it had happened beforehand, you would think that they would want to protect their fans a lot sooner if this really did take place as they're claiming it does. Right? Alright, so let's move forward. The assault and allegations by defendants and Funimation employees have seriously damaged Vic's career by including numerous conventions to cancel his appearances, which we have seen. This has happened. Many have canceled him this year. By inducing producers and directors to not consider him or terminate him for projects. Right. Jamie Markey, Monica Rial, myself, and almost all other voice actors have kissed and hugged hundreds of fans at conventions no matter their age. Oh. Well, since that's the case then, Jamie and Monica, then why aren't you put in the same area as Vic then in this category? If you did the same things and yet you claim that he's an awful person, you did the same thing. That certainly makes them no better whatsoever then. If you want to say that Vic did these terrible things, and yet Jamie and Monica did the same things as well, that they would kiss fans and hug fans too, then they would be put in the same category then, if that's the case, if that's the way they see it, because they've done the same thing. The hypocrisy is huge here. But they want to try to get rid of Vic, so they got to make him look bad, and that they're the good guys. They're not the villains of the story that Vic is, right? See, that's awful. That's terrible, and it's hypocritical. Absolutely hypocritical what they're doing here. Shows you how vile they are as human beings. So, moving on to the next part. Let's go to part 70. I talked with Vic about his issues and advised him to speak with his counselor about it. I now believe his activity and infidelities are more closely associated to the common narcissism and ego from men in his position. I believe Vic is sincere in his efforts with his counselor to correct the abject moral failings associated with his behavior. Number 71. My settlement efforts were an attempt to help my friend Vic, who was suffering tremendously, to protect Jamie and Monica from the difficulty of a lawsuit and to heal the anime community, which has been seriously divided by the allegations against Vic. And that's true. The big thing also that happened here was that Vic was on medication. Okay, because he felt like he did something seriously wrong. He was tormented by this. This hurt him severely. And he wanted to correct anything that he felt was wrong with him. He went to a counselor over this. He took medication. And he wanted to know what he could have possibly done that was wrong. Because he didn't know what he did to deserve any of this. Which he definitely didn't deserve any of this bad treatment. Now, moving on to part 72. During my settlement efforts, Todd Haberkorn told me that Chris Abbott, Ron Toye, and Sean Schemmel told him that he was in danger of never working at Funimation again because Haberkorn retained the same law firm as Vic. Yeah, that's right. They tried to get rid of Todd Haberkorn if he were to actually hire Ty Beard. That's actually true. It's pretty awful. So, moving forward, I also feared that my 20-year voice acting career at Funimation and personal reputation would be damaged by retaliation for my association with Vic. I contacted Gen Fukunaga, the then CEO of Funimation, to discuss my concerns with Chris Abbott's gaslighting of Sean Schemmel, damaging use of his authority toward actors, and his attempts to destroy my career in early March 2019, who met with me and advised that Vic would lose and have to pay via something he had learned about called the anti-slap motion. He also, in response to my specific concerns about Chris Abbott, said that he had been friends with Chris Abbott for 17 years and he did not believe me. This meeting occurred on March 5th, 2019 at 2:30 p.m. in Gen's office, approximately a month to a month and a half prior to Vic filing the current pending lawsuit. That's what he had to continue to say. I and my wife fear direct, planned, specific retaliation from Chris Abbott and those loyal to him in response to this affidavit that will be damaging to my reputation and career. That's sad. It's very sad. I feel for Chuck Huber on that one. That's very sad. I have known Vic for many years, and I do not believe he was ever offensively approached anyone past the point of them telling him no. I mean, looking at all of this, you can definitely see that Chuck Huber himself is even afraid. He was even afraid to come out and say these things. At first, he was a neutral party. But now he is on Vic's side, and the thing is, he's afraid that something could happen to his career now. All because he came to stand up for Vic. And he believes that Vic is innocent. He doesn't believe that he's done anything wrong. Looking at point 79, this is a huge one right here. Funimation employees, including Jamie Marquis, Monica Rial, and Michelle Specht, have advised me more than once since February 2019 that criminal charges are coming against Vic. In response, I encourage them to tell these alleged victims to come forward. When asked to provide specifics to these allegations, they couldn't will refuse to do so. Now, why would they? That's weird. Why would they say that? Unless this isn't true. Because that's very strange that if these things happen to those people, why wouldn't they come forward? Isn't that a bit odd? And the next statement kind of pieces a couple things together right here. When I was told about the contents of the confidential investigation undertaken by Tammy Denbo on behalf of Funimation, my opinion was that Funimation, Jamie Marquis, and Monica Rial acted together. And with encouragement from Chris Abbott and Sean Schemmel to destroy Vic's career and life. And from everything that's gone on, and when you look at this whole document that's out here, it tells you a lot. It tells you a lot of the dark and devious things that goes on at Funimation that we wouldn't have known of unless it had been revealed. And this whole document from Chuck here is huge. This tells us so much more than we already knew. We already knew there were issues. I mean, if you look at the VA leaks and all of that, what Abbott said, Schemmel said, and a lot of the other things, I mean, this is a big thing here. And what Chuck said, this is vital. This is very important stuff. And the hearing is just right around the corner. September 6th is the hearing date. That is Friday. And I will tell you, this information right here is huge. And I think it's very telling as to the things that have gone on. Because you look at the statements from Schemmel, you look at Abbott, you look at Rial, you look at Marquis, you look at Soye, you look at all of them and what they've said, look at all their clown show, look at the previous statement that came out on Friday even, that they were trying to add extra filing for certain just to make sure this hearing doesn't go through and that Tyveer doesn't get his statement and response in time. Yeah, I think that's very telling to what's going on here. And I think that this tells you a lot of the dark secrets, that there's more skeletons falling out of this closet. And I'll say this. It's not looking good for Funimation. Soei may have to clean house, and you know Toei is not happy. You know they're watching this. So, we'll see where everything goes on Friday. But anyways, let me know what you think about this entire situation down below. Thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and if you did enjoy, hit the video with a like, subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and share this video. Let's try to get this video out there. And follow me on Discord. The link is in the description down below. But anyways, I hope you all have yourselves a wonderful and fantastic day today. And remember, if today was not a good day, tomorrow could always be better. Take care of yourselves and everyone around you, and have yourselves a good one out there, everybody.